Welcome to the Autism Blueprint Podcast. I'm your host, Janeen Herskovitz, and it's my goal to help you create a more peaceful home while living with autistic and neurodivergent loved ones. Each episode, we focus on a different room in the house and help you create a peace plan for your home. So let's get started. Welcome back to the Autism Blueprint Podcast. In today's episode, I'm thrilled to have Rachel Estes Leyk join us. Rachel is a dedicated mother of two, one of whom is on the autism spectrum, and she's also the author of an insightful book called Responsibility. Together, we'll explore her journey with her son, Cooper, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 7. Rachel shares a powerful story from Cooper's middle school experience that inspired her to create a toolbox of strategies for parents, educators, and caregivers. We'll discuss her AMP model, which stands for advocating, motivating, and participating, and how it emphasizes the importance of placing the child at the center of the support system. So join us for a heartfelt conversation filled with practical insights and encouragement for anyone navigating the world of autism. So let's jump in. Rachel Estes Leyk, thank you so much for coming on the Autism Blueprint podcast. How are you today?
I'm awesome. It's fantastic to be here with you.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you on. So I want to start out with you telling us a little bit about what you do and how you got started doing it.
So I'm a mom of two children, and one of those children is autistic on the spectrum. And I'm also in tech. So I have a day job besides my mom day job. And I created a book. I wrote a book recently based on Cooper's journey. And it's a combination of an event that took place in our lives. And that was really the catalyst for the book. And the book is a storytelling book that provides a toolbox. And the toolbox has different lessons, strategies, and tools in it. And then in the back of the book, there's an appendix with a lot of the framework so that parents and educators, caregivers can get to work and really action on everything that's inside the book.
Wonderful. I love that idea. So tell us a little bit, as much as you're comfortable, about Cooper and your journey with him.
Yeah. So Coop was diagnosed with autism at age 7. He is now 17. He's a junior in high school. And I'm so proud of the work that he's done. He is in all general ed classes except for one. So he's done a tremendous job working on himself, and he'd say he's been coached to death by me and others. And really where the book, where I received the encouragement from the book was from an event that took place in middle school. It was 7th grade for Cooper. He was at lunch, and he and a buddy were in line at lunch. And they were talking about gaming and just kind of, enjoying a break from the class time. And another student turned around, and this individual, Cooper knew from math class, and he turned around and kind of got in Cooper's bubble a little bit too close. And Cooper asked, hey, can you back up? Can you kind of give me some space? And the individual would not give Cooper the space he was requesting. And Cooper asked again for some space. And this individual gave Cooper the middle finger, because now clearly he's annoyed by Cooper asking for space. And Cooper did what I think any teenage boy would do. He also returned the middle finger to this individual.
Sure.
The moment changed very rapidly when the individual said, "Why are your hands so white?" And Cooper stepped back and he looked around and he said, I don't know. Why are yours so black? Mm-hmm. And the individual with 4 other classmates went to the back of the lunchroom and told another student about the exchange. Cooper didn't think anything of it. He has a very scientific brain. He thought, well, maybe this kid knows why, right? And he continued on with his buddy, got his lunch, and as he was approaching the table and preparing to sit down, this other student that wasn't in the line came screaming up behind him, "What'd you say? What'd you say? Say it to me, say it to me." Why physically beating on Cooper in his head and neck. And Cooper lost his hearing instantly. He started to lose his vision. His para tried to get control of the situation. Other adults were paying attention. And this student like ran around the lunchroom like Tasmania devil. And he returned, and now he's starting to beat Cooper on his face.
My goodness.
And he repeatedly struck Cooper. It took 6 adults to get this child off of our son under control. Mm-hmm. And Cooper was rushed out of the lunchroom. The school didn't notify me until 2 hours after the event. And I had to call 911 to request officer support because they weren't providing him any of that. Yeah. So I met Cooper at the school, and we connected with the officer, and I said, I would like to take him home and make sure that he doesn't need any medical assistance, because he also has a metabolic disorder. And I said, so, I think we can come back and give a report tomorrow. The officer agreed. And obviously I'm saying that with very little emotion right now, but in that moment, it was very, very crushing, to see Cooper in that very vulnerable physical state. Mm-hmm. And as we got to the car, we were sitting in the car in the parking lot, and Cooper looked at me and he said, "Mom, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything." Yeah. And I looked at him and I said, "But you did everything. You did everything right," because, and this is where the inspiration for the book comes from. An autistic child, as Cooper had to learn every emotion that there is to be expressed. He had to learn, what do those emotions feel like? How do we regulate those emotions? And for Cooper, he held it together while being physically beat. Mm-hmm. He did suffer a TBI. He was out of school for 5 months. We had a lot of specialists around us. And the specialists had a consistent message to me as his mom. They asked, "What did you teach this kid? And how did you do it?" Wow. Because we haven't seen this ever before. And that Cooper was able to have such grace and composure in the most emotional, physically, mentally stressed moment. Mm-hmm. He never once struck that other child. He didn't raise his voice. He said, "Mom, all I knew to do was get small and silent."
That hurts my heart to hear that, Rachel. My goodness.
I know. So that's why I wrote this book, is to share, although very painful, right? Yeah. Probably the most painful moment. I hope that I can spread a little hope to other parents, caregivers, and teachers that there are tools that you can teach anyone in giving them the ability to respond and really building that skill set. The book is named Response-Ability, mm-hmm. and it is about creating that ability to respond. And so that's where it's grounded in.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. It's so deeply personal and traumatic. I mean, just my goodness, as a parent who's also a trauma therapist, wow, that's a lot to deal with, and such a helpless feeling when our kids are in those situations. But my goodness, good for Cooper. He used in that situation all the things you've taught him. And, I'm sure you have a village surrounding him.
Yes.
As we all do. I want to dig into responsibility, which I love as the title. It's so powerful and it sounds so simple, but it has such deep layers. So how do you define it, and what does it look like in everyday life?
Yeah, I think, there's several tools that I've put in the book. There's tools that I didn't put in the book. And it was really, the antithesis is, well, this is about Cooper, right? Like growing up and raising Cooper, it was about Cooper. It was not about me. It wasn't about the therapist. It wasn't about the neuroscientist, right? It wasn't about none of them. It was about Cooper always. And so I created this model called the AMP, and it's about advocating, motivating, and participating. And I think when we put anyone in the center of that model, we're better equipped to support them because we have to gain knowledge about them. We have to gain awareness of their strengths and their weaknesses, and how do I support that? What are my strengths and weaknesses in relation to the support they need? And to your point, bring the village along to fill some of those gaps. And then the motivation part, what is their mindset and attitude? It's not sunshine and pixie dust all day, raising children, especially children on the spectrum. But what is their mindset and attitude? And know it, like get to know it, because like an example of that is Cooper, whenever asked a question, he'll say no. And he needs a few seconds to kind of almost take it in, process it, and then provide the proper answer, right? And so I know that about him, so I can ask him, hey, you want to go, to a soccer game? His first response is going to be no, because that's his default setting. Mm-hmm. But then he processes it and he's like, oh my gosh, we're going to go to a soccer. Yes, I want to go, see Miami and Messi play soccer. So knowing that and not getting frustrated with the default settings, yes, but you can know it, and you can almost create that reward system and goal system to bring them out of their default settings. And then participation. I've coached basketball, I've coached soccer. Every player is different. And I know this, when you're in practice, the coach has to be on the field or on the court with you and showing you, what does excellence look like? And you're not going to get it right the first time, second time, or 100th time. But the fact that you keep trying and you have this awareness of what does it feel like when I execute it? And what did it feel like when I didn't get it right? What did it feel like when I did? Having adults that surround the child, again, they're at the center, participating in supporting and helping. So that's really what I grounded in as we raise Cooper. It's putting him in the center.
I love that. And, I love that idea of being a coach. I've heard so many great analogies, but my husband uses that analogy all the time because it's so good, where he'll say, okay, he's currently staying at home with my son, taking care of him. Our son is 27, limited verbally. And so he'll say, well, you, meaning me, you're the coach and I'll be the quarterback. Yeah. And then that way, if you just tell me what you want to happen today, I'll get it done. And it's this teamwork that's really so helpful, and it's going to look different in every family.
That's right. That's right. And I think quickly discerning that, like, who's the coach today, who's the quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. And what are the players on the field? Mm-hmm. What do we need to do in those different roles? Because sometimes I'm not the coach, I am the quarterback, or sometimes I'm just a cheerleader, providing that cheer.
The athletic trainer that has to take care of the injury.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that. I love that you all like openly call it out. Oh yeah. And like you say, I'm going to take on this role. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think those roles are important because without them, there can be a lot of chaos, and there can be a lot of, well, who gave him his medicine, and what, who's responsible for this and who's responsible for that. So it sounds like, does some of the program that you've created, the framework you've created, does that address that in a way?
I focus more, given this is my very first book, I feel like I have more in me because I didn't put everything in here because it would be 1,000+ pages. I feel like I wanted to focus on just giving people the concept and challenge them with a mindset shift of, you have to put the child at the center in order for them to build their ability to respond to life and life situations. And so giving them that grounding of, what does that look like? What are the tools to invoke that? Yeah.
give me an example. I just feel like you and I have naturally, or maybe because of circumstance, put the child at the center. What does it look like when they're not?
Well, I think it comes in a couple different forms, and I did some research early on when Cooper was younger, because I was like, this is so weird. We would come into contact with, whether it's teachers, therapists, OT, PT, speech, whatever they were working on with him, and they would say to Cooper, "You need to do it this way, or I'm not going to work with you." And they would declare that, right? And so I think you can, as a parent, as a caregiver and educator, you can keep watch for those clues. What are people verbalizing? What are they telling you, right? Other times it's behavioral, right? They would get frustrated. I had neuroscience physician walk out of the room during testing. And he's like, "I need a timeout." Because he thought Cooper wasn't doing the testing the way he needed Cooper to do it.
Yeah.
And I said, "Are you looking for testing results? Are you looking for a data point? Or are you looking to control the environment to such a degree he's not able to perform in the environment?" I said, what are we looking for?
Go mama.
And so, right, you have to show up in a way that meets the objective. And it sometimes means that you, the adult in the room that's cognitively functioning,
yes,
you have to be the one to shift. And so that's where it came from, is like coming into contact with these people. And I'm like, "But isn't it about Cooper?" I kept asking him, "Isn't it about Cooper? It's not about you." Yeah, take the time out, take the break. I encourage that. But then come back with a different mindset.
Yes.
So that's what it was about.
So in those situations, I mean, your words are so perfect. I know I have parents all the time who are like, "Give me a script," or "What do I do when?" This comes at a great time this past weekend, and my son is fine, by the way, but this past weekend we spent a day in the ER, and it was the first time that I had taken him there since he was young. And boy, I was pleasantly surprised at how stuff had changed.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that I'm his advocate and I've been doing this for 28 years, I made sure that I intervened every step of the way.
Yes.
With each person that came in the room. Now, with a new parent, or a parent that's new to this world, even 10, 15 years in can be considered still new.
Mm-hmm.
What do you recommend, say, if a parent is in the ER, or it does have to go to a doctor's appointment where that's happening, what you described?
Yeah, I think one thing that I learned early on was, and I say this to my kids all the time, find your voice. Find and understand what your voice sounds like when you're advocating. And advocate like you would if it was you.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen a lot of parents not able to articulate on behalf of their child because they didn't have that strength. They didn't have that knowing. And that is so, so important. The other thing, after you've found your voice and you know what it sounds like when you're advocating, always believe in them. Because life is so hard, even, as a neurotypical, but life can be hard, and they need someone to believe in them every single time. I'm not saying, don't hold them accountable.
Of course.
But I'm saying always believe in them. Always listen, truly listen to their voice when they're explaining a situation. And don't let any other noise impact your decision-making or your perspective of them. And I think that's super important in those environments, because we're taught, at least my generation, I was taught that, doctors are always right.
Yes.
Doctors know best. Well, yes. I got a clue for you. We have ChatGPT and all sorts of tools that we can find information. And so we can ask curious questions. So be curious, find your voice, and really believe in them always.
Yeah, it's, the doctors that I've seen that see it more of a collaborative exercise, especially with our kids. It usually has the best results. And I feel like the only thing you can keep doing is just keep doing it. The longer you do it, the easier it gets.
Right. That's right. And like, you're going to get it wrong sometimes in stressful situations. You're going to have a reaction. And as I've taught Cooper how to respond to life, I also was learning myself how to best respond and creating more elasticity, more knowledge in my ability to respond.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so cliche, right? Our children with special needs teach us so much, but it's true. It's a painful experience, and I wish there was another way.
Right. But we wouldn't be like, we are vessels of such amazing knowledge and wisdom and experience that most don't have the pleasure to receive. So yeah, I agree.
You just gave me goosebumps. My goodness. I just love how you put that in the words. That's lovely. So a big theme in your work is empowerment, right? Helping kids find their voice and build their own agency. How can parents encourage that kind of independence, but while still honoring the neurodivergent needs?
Yeah, one I would say tool that we learned of early on, and I was like, why did they not teach this to me in high school? Why didn't they teach this to me in college and business school? And it's the 4 functions of behavior. That was the biggest aha moment. And it really allowed us to better serve Cooper because we could align. An example is Cooper, when someone would ever come visit, come to the house, whether it was our dog sitter or whatnot, he would get rambunctious and he would become loud and big, right? And some would call that annoying. But his behavior had a function, and it was attention. I would like attention, even though someone's here visiting or, to do a task, I would like the attention. Instead of creating a punishment, like go to your room until you settle down, or, saying words like you're being annoying, it was, hey, buddy, I see you. Would you like to come out on the porch and visit with us? And make him a part of the experience and be able to have that other person also visit with him and see him in that moment. He'd get bored and then he would choose to do something else. But we filled his bucket, so to speak. And so I think for anyone, the 4 functions of behavior, it's a lifesaver because you're actually feeding the behavioral need, and then the behavior can mature in a very healthy way, right? You name it and you identify it with them, they can start learning that's whether it becomes a default setting or healthier ways to choose to seek attention or avoidance or whatever one it is. Yeah.
And what I love about that example is that you're choosing connection over compliance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So all day long, our kids they need to comply. And I completely understand that. I mean, I need my child to comply during certain times too, but we can't look at every behavior, like you were saying, as something that needs to be punished,
right?
Or every behavior doesn't need to be redirected. It needs to be understood.
Yes. In that, I wish that they taught the 4 functions of behavior to educators.
Do you know them off the top of your head?
Yeah. Attention seeking, avoidance, sensory, and tangible. Yeah.
Beautiful. Are you comfortable breaking those down a little bit?
Yeah. From a standpoint of like how we leverage. Yeah. So I think I gave you the attention seeking one, right? And I think the solution is verbalize. I see you. I see you need me in this moment right now, right? And be inclusive. Hey, would you like to come spend time with us while we visit, right? Make them a part of the experience. Avoidance, I think, even in the workplace and at home, I think avoidance is the one that people gravitate to the most. I don't have any official statistics on it, but boy, people love avoidance. And I think for Cooper, that comes in the form of homework, right? Boy, that kid cannot be found when it's time to do the homework. And so I think when you have you're presenting, say, homework to a student, I think it verbalizing, hey, I know that this subject isn't your favorite. I know that this one is hard and it makes you feel kind of like unsure of yourself. So how about some choices? Should we do math or science, which you're really gifted at? And then should we tackle the English after that? Or do you want to do some laps and then come back inside and we'll set a timer for 15 minutes, right? So it's like, how can you get them to engage in that activity that they typically want to avoid? And what we saw is there was less avoidance. Like there was more, there gained elasticity and less fixed mindset on that. The other tangible, this is a fun one. So they're seeking something I want, right? Whether it's more physical based. Target became the place of tangible function of behavior. And we could not walk out of that store with something in that kid's hand. And if we chose to say no, we had a meltdown in the middle of Target, which is completely like people just staring, right?
Oh yeah.
And I hated putting myself in that situation. And so what we did was a little unconventional. We got a service dog, and it was Cooper's job to handle that service dog when we would go into Target, even though in the car I would have the pep talk. Now we're going in for 3 items, and these are the 3 items. We're not going down the toy aisle. We're not going anywhere. We're not getting toys because we're not going down the toy aisle and we're not getting toys. And I would pep talk this, right? And I would say, are we in agreement? Yeah, mom. Yeah, mom. And the agreement would fall apart in the store. Yes. But when we got Goldie, his service dog, he was so busy managing Goldie, and people would come up to us and want to talk, about Goldie and this little boy holding on to Goldie, that he had no time to think about a tangible toy in that moment.
Yes. First of all, I love service dogs. I'm a huge fan. And that just sounds like the perfect thing for Cooper. You know, do you still have Goldie?
We still have Goldie. He doesn't work anymore.
Okay.
Cooper doesn't need him anymore. But I mean, for years we took him on flights with us. We took him on vacations because, Cooper needed that and it worked. And now we still have Goldie, and Cooper doesn't work anymore. Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh, that's so cool. It's such a great example. I know that for us, I would, whenever we go into a store, I always let them know what the goal is, right? We're going in to get this.
Yeah.
And very often I'll be like, hey, if you help me out, I'll make sure you get a Gatorade on the way out, or whatever it is. Like there's kind of a reward that it's built into, you're helping me.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
And it keeps him busy, and he keeps his hands busy. I mean, just it's interesting and I think that this is an important fact too, is that trust between you and your child.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I know I've heard of, I've brought this up a couple of times. I really want to do an episode on it. Pathological demand avoidance. You heard that term? Okay.
I have. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really have an opinion on it. I don't have that much information about it, other than I understand that the no always comes first, like you said.
Yes.
I don't know that it's always for demand avoidance. I think it's for a drive to be autonomous.
Yes. I would agree with that.
Yeah. I always say PDA stands for persistent drive for autonomy, because then we're looking at it, like you said, from the functions of those 4 behaviors. 4 behavioral functions. And we're not just looking at, don't upset him, because I have so many parents that come into my office and say, well, he's got PDA. So we don't want to upset the apple cart. And I'm like, okay, I get it. But let's talk about how to use what you know about his no to your advantage. And I just love the way that you talked about doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's going to vary, depending on your child.
That's right. And I think there's naturally going to be an upsetting because you're shifting behavior, right? You're having to unfreeze the unwanted behavior and you're having to establish new behavior. And with any of us, that is uncomfortable to a degree. And so leaning in and letting them know I'm here to support you. I see you in that, right? And I know it's uncomfortable. And making, I love that reward system. They're doing the work. What rewards associated with the work? And then as soon as you look back, you're like, we've grown so much. We've grown so much, and they've done such hard work, right?
Yeah.
But the uneasiness with it, right? The parents are even uneasy to tackle it, right? And it's like, don't let that fear exist. Get rid of that fear.
Yes. What do you usually say to parents? Because I know you do some coaching too, right?
Yeah.
What do you say to parents who worry that they're getting it wrong, right? That they're either too reactive or they're not patient enough, or what do you tell them?
It's a journey. It's really about each day reflecting. I don't think people reflect enough on the day. And we use this with Cooper, and it taught me I should be doing this and for myself, right? But every day to school, we talked about how we show up. 3 things: be fair and just, be kind and loving, and be humble. And how can you focus on those 3 things in your actions, in your behavior throughout your day? When I would pick them up from school every single day, we talked about every hour. So tell me about first hour. What'd you do really well? And we got it down to like just saying the number 1, 2, or 3. And he would say, I was really loving today in this class, and this is why, and this is how. And sometimes he would tell me, I didn't have such a good recess. I fought with my buddy, and we didn't come together at the end. We ended up arguing the whole recess. And I said, well, what can you do tomorrow? How can you be more loving? How can you be humble so that you can hear him speak, so you can be fair and just, and maybe both get a turn to play your game and not just be about one person and their game. And so I think that's what I would say is reflect. Help them be reflectors. What are their guiding values or character points that you want them to operate in? And then reflect on those every time. I do that after meetings. I'm like, how did I show up in that meeting? How could I be better at that? So I think it's a tool we should be practicing every day.
I love that so much. And so much is coming to mind. I think about either the kid after school or the client that comes into my office that's neurodivergent. And I go, how was your week? Or how was your day? And they go, good. And that's it. That's all you get. And it's because it's too open-ended of a question.
It's too big.
Yeah, it's too big. So saying like, okay, first hour, how did this go? Or what did who did you sit with at lunch? Can sometimes start a conversation, like asking specific questions. But also, I think what's important about what you just said, Rachel, is your reaction, your response. Your response wasn't a reaction of fixing or, well, why didn't you do this? So why didn't you do that? And here's how you can fix it next time. And, and what do you mean you didn't, like a kid knows whether or not their parent is a safe person to share with.
Yes. Yes.
So if we're just listening and not rushing to fix, which, oh my gosh, is so hard to do.
Yeah, it is. And again, you're going to get it wrong. It's going to go sideways, and then you're going to start getting the flow of it and get your style, right? And that's where you see success. You see growth.
Yes. You mentioned, and that kind of brings me to my next question, which is you mentioned that you have a husband at home that helps you raise your children, right?
Yep.
Do you see differences in the two of you as far as how you approach things, and how do you handle the differences? Do they matter? Tell me a little about that.
I love that question because so Sean, his parenting style on the opposite side of the spectrum as mine. And I think we've talked a lot about this. It's rooted in how we grew up and how we were raised by our parents.
Yes.
And recognizing what was instilled in us through that life experience, right? And the relationships that we have with our parents still to this day. And my dad was in the military, and then he was a commissioner for the city that we lived in. So government, right? And engineer mindset, right? And so he loves organization, black and white, run process, respect, and authority, things like that. My mom was a nurse in her career, and so very caring, nurturing, solving, fixing, from a healthcare provider perspective. And she was a bit hippie-ish. And so she's like free loving. And so I have this interesting style, which I credit to both of them as being kind of this blend, right?
Mm.
And that's how I've looked at Cooper. I have a strong accountability, but man, I will meet you where you're at, and I will walk the arduous journey with you with patience as long as the day is. But and I have this knowing I will get you there, and you will get there, and you're going to have this amazing success of growth. Sean, he likes the approach of hard and fast. I told you to do this, now do it.
Right.
And, any kid or teenager loves delay and avoidance. And, you might have to ask them 5 times, and you might have to get in there and show them, right? And so I think that's just the difference. And Sean and I have had our family therapy from a standpoint of how do we be a better team?
Yes.
As we push into this raising an autistic, and also raising a daughter that's 2 years older than Cooper, and not have her forgotten about. And how does she enter into the dynamic of all of this? And I think we used to have this keyword. I was lightning and he was thunder. And I would always say, don't boom on my light, because I needed that key word. So he knew if I said, don't boom on it, he knew he was coming in too heavy, and he was coming in over top of me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let the ka-chow work. Let it just let the light be seen in this moment.
Yeah.
And not be so booming. And so we've had to have keywords, code words among ourselves. We have not always gotten it right, but I'll tell you, we love each other fiercely, and we support each other fiercely, even when we do get it wrong.
I love that. I really do. We have a very similar situation. And when you've been doing it a while, you just figure it out. You just kind of, a friend of mine texted me over the weekend. Is like, how is Ben feeling? I'm like, he's fine. Joe and I are drowning, but he's good.
Yes.
And I told her kind of the last couple of days, and she said, y'all are just such a team. You guys just, how to, we let each other nap when we're going through crises with our kiddo. And,
Yes.
we're taking care of each other and the situation, rather than, what we did when they were younger, which was kind of snap at each other, which, why are you doing it this way? Well, why do it this way? We both have something to bring to the table that's really important. And, I hear moms say all the time, well, my husband's not going to do it the way I do it. I'm like, good, because this kid's got to get used to different styles.
Yes.
So, my son knows that when I'm home, there are certain things he can't get away with, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. And they also figure out quickly how they can play both sides when you're both present, right? They're really intelligent that way. They can read the people and work the room.
And parents always ask me, how do I know if this is an autistic thing or if this is a manipulative thing? What do you answer when someone asks that?
I think, does it matter? I don't know if it matters. I think the first step is you took an observer perspective and you saw it. Mm-hmm. Now, what's your solution to it? whatever it is, right? And that's what's most important, is to keep moving towards the solution and don't stay in the it, because that'll just eat you up. And so that just keep moving towards a solution. And the first one isn't going to pop and be awesome, but at least you're moving them towards that.
Yes. And I just, as you're saying that, it occurred to me that my own anxiety will get in the way so often that I know there are maybe 2 people on my emergency call list that can talk me off that ledge. And luckily, one of them I work with. So if I come in and it's been a bad night, she will immediately put me back together. It's nice to work with therapists. So I do have a privilege here, but
that's right. We all need that outlet though, right?
Yes.
We do. We need our people around us.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I want to be mindful of your time. What else do we need to know about your program responsibility?
I think it's a journey, and it is truly meant to be something that can be implemented immediately around the dinner table, in the car ride, going, and doing everyday life. This is not a MBA course in how to raise an autistic child. This is just an everyday. And I think I think Dr. Richard Ziegler captured it in his foreword. And he's like, listen, folks, she's got something here, and everybody should pick up a copy and start reading it, because you can start making a difference, not only for your child, but for you, the other people in your household, your spouse relationship, your other children. It looks at all of those aspects, and it's practical. It's practical because it's built on real life.
That's fantastic. So, I mean, and my audience knows when I recommend something, it's something that I would use myself. So, so you guys definitely go check that out. I'm going to I'm going to have all the links in the show notes. So all you have to do is click on it to go and purchase the book. And what I want to ask you, Rachel, at the end of every interview, I ask everybody the same question. If every autism parent in the world were listening, what would you want them to know?
That your kid is awesome, no matter what the diagnosis is.
I love that. And if people want to connect with you, where can we find you?
My website, rachelestesleyk.com. And you can find the book there. You can find my email there. And if you I would love to hear from you and reach out. I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn.
Awesome. And we will link to all of that in the show notes so people can stay in touch and keep up with your work. Thank you, Rachel, so much for coming on today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and sharing this and amplifying it with your community. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining us for this insightful episode of the Autism Blueprint podcast with Rachel Estes Leyk. Rachel's journey with her son Cooper is a powerful reminder of the resilience and strength that can emerge from challenging situations. And I hope you found her insights as inspiring as I did. Here are a few takeaways from our conversation. First is the importance of advocacy, placing the child at the center of the support system by advocating for their unique needs and strengths. Understanding their behavior, which means familiarizing yourself with the 4 functions of behavior: attention seeking, avoidance, sensory needs, and tangible rewards to better address your child's actions. Making connection a priority over compliance. Focus on building those connections with your child rather than simply enforcing compliance. Understanding their behavior is crucial. We also talked about the AMP model. So utilizing that AMP framework, advocating, motivating, and participating to support your child's growth and independence. And she talks about that at length in her book, which I've linked in the show notes as well. Reflection is key. So encouraging daily reflection for both parents and children can foster personal growth and improve your relationships. And lastly, believe in your child. Always maintain belief in your child's abilities and potential, providing them with the support that they need to thrive. So if you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with others who might benefit from Rachel's message. And don't forget to check out her book, Responsibility, for more practical tools and insights. And that's it for today on Autism Blueprint. If you want to be my neighbor or even a house guest, check out our Patreon Discord community at patreon.com/autismblueprint. Your support keeps Porch Light on, and a huge thank you to all of our current patrons. If you're not ready to become a patron, be sure to sign up for free there so you can receive updates by email about upcoming episodes and opportunities to connect. Take care.
The information in this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for help from a licensed mental health professional.